This entire military is one cohesive, dedicated force. And the threats to our nations, they don't sleep. They're watching our every move. Iran, Russia, China, North Korea, ISIS, Al-Qaeda. They may be watching this right now. Our military should not be mistaken for a cable news gabfest show. We don't care what you look like. We don't care who you voted for, who you worship, what you worship, who you love. It doesn't matter if your dad left you millions when he died or if you knew who your father was. We have been honed into a machine of lethal moving parts that you would be wise to avoid if you know what's good for you. We will not be intimidated. We will not back down. We don't want war. But if you want war with the United States of America, there's one thing I can promise you, so help me God. Someone else will raise your sons and daughters.
Opinions expressed in this program are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of any entities they represent.
Find us on the web at mbradio.us.
Let's face it, life after service ain't always easy. Far too many veterans continue to struggle in silence. But you don't have to fight this battle alone, because we are here to help. This ain't no group therapy. It's the after party to the battle. Full speed ahead, after battle. Real thoughts, real stories, no BS.
Good Monday afternoon, evening, everybody, and welcome to another week's episode of Full Speed Ahead After Battle. As always, I am your host, Josh McCabe, Navy veteran, suicide awareness chair, VFW member, podcaster, host, whatever you want to call me. We're here to help you guys today. It is October the 6th, Monday afternoon, so let's just jump into what's been going on last week before we get to my amazing guest today. Of course, yesterday was Sunday, football Sunday. My Cowboys, they pulled one out, albeit against the Jets. It is what it is. A win is a win. I don't care what team it comes across. But, they put up some good numbers yesterday, and I was proud of them. So we'll hopefully, surprisingly, they're the number one offense in the league, and I don't know how they did it, but they did. And so hopefully they'll keep it up. But let's talk about some more heartening stuff lately. There's a lot of things going on the last couple months. It's been stressful on me. I won't get into my details because, I'm not one of those ones that likes to share my story all over social media. I'm not here to do it to get the hearts, the likes, the stars, and all of that stuff. I do it because I like to share my story so other people realize that they're not the only one out there. Right? You're not the only one that's going through something. Everybody's going through stuff, and we're here to help you with that. That's what this whole show is about to help you show that other people are out there, other people have the same experiences, and we are here to help. You're not going through this alone. But with that, the last couple of weeks, I've been getting phone call after phone call after phone call, and I'm talking about 3 phone calls in the last few weeks that really – it really rocks somebody to the core with these phone calls I've been getting. And it's, to the point that this was a few years ago, I would have been half a bottle in and I would have not been able to get up off the couch or out of bed. I would have been calling in sick to work just because I can't handle this anymore. However, with the help that I've been searching in my support system over the last few years, it's gotten a lot better, and I'm not to that point anymore. However, this last one, it could put me there. If I were to take the wrong step, that is, if I were to just, fall into my inner demons again and not seek my support system. And that's what I want people to realize, that, whether it's MBR, military broadcast radio, whether it's, a veteran organization, whether it's your family, your friends. There's organizations out there. You can build that support system. And that's gonna be your number one thing, right? Especially when we start talking about transition from the military, mental health awareness. It's having that support system in place, right? And that's, I think, one of the most important things that you could have. And so as I'm going through all these different emotions and feelings lately, I'm glad that I have that support system. I'm glad that I have my wife to lean on. She has been the rock, especially with this last phone call. And I could not be here today, doing what I do today, tonight, and every day, helping myself, helping my family, helping veterans. I couldn't do it without them. So, with that, there's a lot of going on lately. And I just commented this on another page, and I saw it out there. And, it really struck me with what's going on right now. And that is, as veterans, the military trains you to fight. They train you to go to war. They train you to do the things that you got to do to win the battle. But they don't train you to come out of that. And I'm sharing that today because my guest coming up, she truly has a story I think took years and years in the making. And she is finally conquering her demons, conquering her story, and sharing that success. And so I wanted to share that. My history today, I don't think it's anything compared to what she's gone through. But, we're going to find out more about that here in just a quick second. So we're going to get into it here. We're going to have our quick interview of the week video, and then I'm going to bring on my guest. But, she is an Army veteran. She went through, some abuse in the military as well as in her personal life. She came out of it stronger. She is an author now. She helps people. She works in the civic world as well, helping with state representatives and things like that. And so she's on the right path now to helping veterans, to helping people, her family, and everything else. So we're going to go ahead and get this started so we can talk more about Miss Tamara Rucker.
The interview of the week is brought to you by Jersey Mike's, a sub above.
All right, Miss Tamara, welcome to Full Speed Ahead. How are you doing?
I am absolutely wonderful. Thank you for having me.
Yes, I'm absolutely happy that you're here. I saw you on one of the pages and I reached out to you. And I think that, you had an amazing story, not just, professionally with the military, but personally with everything that you've gone through. And I think you are what I would consider is the epitome of it's going to get better, right? Things are going to get better. So don't fall within your demons. Don't take that permanent solution to a temporary situation. And, you're going to get through this. Before I want to ask, I just want to make sure, is the audio and everything working for you now? I know we're having just a quick issue a second ago.
Yeah.
Good. Okay. Perfect. All right. So Tamara,
it is all right.
Okay. So why don't you introduce yourself and tell us who Tamara is? The lady behind the uniform and the company and the author and all that good stuff. Who are you?
Well, again, my name is Tamara. I'm Army veteran, author, mother of two wonderful boys, and owner and founder of Rucker Recovery, which is an asset recovery and private investigation located in St. Louis, Missouri.
Okay. Awesome. So veteran, business owner, author, you're doing great stuff. You sent me a monologue earlier and I was reading through that, and I just want to point out one of the paragraphs that you had in there, because I thought it related not only to me, but I think to a lot of people. And it definitely discusses, it'll get us into that discussion topic of transition from the service. So let me find that real quick. It is, but then when we came home, loneliness set in like a shadow. I didn't know how to talk about what I'd been through, the bullying, the fear, the quiet trauma of surviving people who are supposed to protect you. So I drank. I numbed myself. I told myself I was just blowing off steam. But deep down, I knew I was trying to drown the silence that screamed when everything got quiet. So I think to me, that is, that's not a good transition. And reading your story, I can see where that's coming from. So let's go back a little bit. What caused that leading out of the military? Why did you get out? What was your experience that you're discussing there in that paragraph?
In that particular paragraph, I was discussing, I felt when I came back home from the first deployment, that was to Iraq with my
Mm-hmm.
original unit, that I actually, like, as soon as I came out of AIT, I was in it. And a few months later, we were going to start training, RTC, mobilization, all of that stuff. And when I came into the unit, I felt like everything was gonna be, everything was gonna be okay. And then
Mm-hmm.
one day, and I describe it in there, one day I was actually late for drill. And then on, everything just went downhill. It went
Mm-hmm.
absolutely downhill. My squad leader at the time hated my guts, and he made sure that everyone else did too. It was uh, it was humiliating. It was absolutely humiliating. So when we did deploy, and when we did deploy,
Mm-hmm.
or getting ready to deploy, again, and I explained in there, I wasn't scared of the deployment itself. I was more
Right.
afraid of having to go with the people that I was going with. And
Mm-hmm.
then when we did, when we did get over, everything was great. However, I still didn't like I belonged necessarily. So when you're in this area overseas, you know, constant like mortars, constant warbling alarms. um, you're
Right.
going out on these missions. Yes, you love the people you deploy with. You absolutely,
Mm-hmm.
you have a love for them. You want to protect them. You have this sense of brotherhood. But I don't feel like I ever felt like I fit in at all. And so,
Right.
when I got home, having gone through all that, feeling as alone as I did, I decided to drink my problems away. And I didn't even realize that I didn't even realize what it was. I didn't realize it was PTSD. I
Right.
actually just kind of brushed it off like I was this party girl, and just hid it behind a smile and glitter. So
Mm-hmm.
that's how that ended up turning out. Um, and then it just led to more self-destructive behaviors after
Right.
that.
Right. Yeah. The self-destructive behavior, I did the same thing. And I think I've talked about it every show because we always get into that conversation. But, the heavy drinking and trying to find that team, and the fit, I know you had to struggle with your team, but I think a lot of people are trying to find that camaraderie, that team. And then when they can't find the same thing coming out of the service, they try to find it in other ways, whether it's, VFW or a motorcycle club or whatever other club, and it's just not the same fit. And then a lot of times it's that downward spiral of drinking or drugs or whatever, the case may be. So um, I know we were just talking about the transition a little bit, and I don't want to put you in a position where you don't want to talk about it, and that's okay. But I think that you're not the only one that kind of went through some of the trauma that you did in service. And do you want to tell a little bit about your story of that trauma that you experienced? Because I think that ties into that transition of why you had such a hard time of deploying with that team, but also coming home and dealing with that issue alone by yourself. Do you mind telling a little bit about that deeper experience of why he didn't feel like a team with him?
Well, it wasn't just the hazing itself. It
Mm-hmm.
it ended up being, so we went on a trip to a European country, and
Mm-hmm.
everybody it was like one night when we got to go out, everyone met at tavern. And on the way back, everybody was just laughing, giggling, everything was fine until, I had an NCO was in the group, ask me to talk, and
Mm-hmm.
nobody else was around. And that actually turned into a sexual assault.
Oh, wow.
And so as I ran away from that situation, like fought and ran away from that situation, it caused a commotion, which actually caused me to get in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
So, later that morning, or not later that morning, but it was, in the morning, I actually got woken up, told to get dressed, taken to the side of the building, and smoked for about 5 hours. So basically, having
Wow.
being punished for defending
Yeah.
myself after having been sexual assaulted. And nobody asked what happened. Nobody asked what
Right.
happened. And I know I described in that story, until one female sergeant, when it was her turn, because what they did was they had sergeant after sergeant after sergeant kind of take their turns, like hazing me, smoking me.
Mm-hmm.
One, she found it really humorous to make me roll around in my vomit. And so I didn't say, I just endured it. I didn't say, but once that one female sergeant, she asked me why. And I told her why. She was just like, "Hey, stop. Wait a minute. What?" And then, she took me upstairs to tell our command that was there on the trip at the time. And they had the guy apologize, and they said, he's like, "Please don't report me." And I knew I should have reported this man, but I
Mm-hmm.
didn't want to be known as more of a troublemaker, even though I wasn't the one
Right.
making trouble.
Yeah.
And so, he apologized because he was drunk. Later on, I actually found out that he was actually supposed to be on duty, but he was so hammered that he didn't make it to be on duty. So he didn't have to apologize, but he did apologize specifically for the sexual assault in front of everybody.
Mm-hmm.
But it was one drill later, after I went to drill, and we had came back from Europe by that point in time. But after drill was done, I get a phone call when I get home from this a random sergeant stating that I was supposed to be in drill in Iowa. And so I just
Wow.
went through drill with the unit, my home unit, and then I find
Mm-hmm.
out that instead of transferring my assaulter out, they transferred me out.
Wow.
And I didn't want to go anywhere, but I
Right.
had to because, well, that's where I was fine. So I ended up having to drive hours and hours to and from drill a while.
Wow.
But I felt like I lost faith in the people I was trying to be friends, get close to trust them.
Mm-hmm.
It felt like the one thing that I'm actually extremely proud of, having joined service, and my family was super proud of me. So, in
Yeah.
front of them, I'm wearing the uniform, I'd wear the uniform, smile, act like I'm proud, take pictures. But inside, I'm like, the one thing that I'm supposed to be proud of right now is the one thing that's making me feel like I want to give up on life.
Yeah.
So, but I also had to remember I'm still serving a bigger purpose than myself,
Mm-hmm.
because the military still meant so much to me. And I
Right.
convinced myself, just because these people suck, or this person
Mm-hmm.
sucks, or that person sucks, doesn't mean the whole military sucks. But I
Right.
wasn't seeing, at that point, I just wasn't seeing any light at the end of the tunnel. So again, in my private life, or in my home life, I continued to drink. Like, bottles of tequila.
Yeah.
So it was a really, really difficult time, extremely difficult time.
I couldn't even imagine what something like your experience, what that would be. And unfortunately, you're not the only one that experienced that in the service. And I think it still continues to this day, unfortunately. And, without getting into politics, this latest decision of we're going back to the War Department and the way things used to be in the military and all that. And people are, coming out and saying, well, that's shutting down the whistleblowers, and people being able to speak out and speak up for themselves. And I don't want to get into that, but it is very unfortunate that people have to deal with that, because coming out of the service, even if you had a grand 20 years and you never had any kind of issues like that, it's still hard enough coming out, without experience that. So, one, thank you for sharing your story, because I think, by opening up and sharing that with other people, they too will realize that it is okay to speak up and speak out and call those people out, because you're right. That's not the way the military is supposed to be. They teach from day one in boot camp that this is teamwork, and we're supposed to be able to count on each other. And, if you get into a firefighter on shipboard or wherever, you're supposed to be able to count on those people. And when you have those experiences, that breaks all that trust in that team. Right. And you're not going to be able to focus on the mission or whatever that you have to do when you're stuck with a team that, does that to you. So, I think we're still having.
However, there's still that, even having been injured from that same incident, you don't want to be known as a sick call ranger. You don't want to be known as, having had my back in that assault. I do not want to say anything. Right. And so later on, that's one of the things, the labels of sick call ranger, labels of this and this and that, not wanting, making it, I guess, difficult for soldiers to report certain things, or the ostracization of folks who do come forward and say, I got hurt doing this, or I got hurt doing that. It makes it difficult later on when those veterans do file a disability claim.
Right. Exactly. And I was going to mention that. Because, everybody's like, well, we don't have time for sick call, or you can go later or whatever. But then when you get out and you start trying to file your disability claim, it's like, well, you didn't go to sick call. You did not, this isn't in your book, and we can't contribute it to time in service or wherever you served. And it's like, no, it happened. But then they want proof, but there is no proof. And so that's a whole longer story. And it takes people 20 or 30 years sometimes to be able to tie that back to something when it comes to that VA disability. Because, real quick, we're going to take a quick break, people. I think we need to work out a couple of technical issues, but we'll be right back. Again, we're talking with Tamara Rucker. She just shared her transition story, her struggles in service. And when we get back, we got a little bit more on that. And then we're going to talk about the hero that she became for her family and others. So we'll be right back after a quick video.
Listening to my heartbeat pound as daylight fades away. A haunting old familiar sound. The guns go silent and I pray. I'm reading all your letters. I can't get you off my mind. Smoke the day's last cigarette. Thankful I'm alive. Mine's not to wonder why. It's just to do or die. Mine's not to wonder just to do or die. Helmet for my pillow, I rest on broken glass. Only heaven knows how long can this all last. I lived another day, but troubles all around. The guns have fallen silent tonight, but the silence is so loud. Mine's not to wonder why, it's just a do or die. Mine's not to wonder why, it's just a do or die. I look up at the stars, through smoke I see the moon, and I wonder where you are at home tonight, if you can see it too. Another burning city lights the fires in the night. I lie to myself and say that I'm not afraid to die. This war is taking me so far from you, and if we meet again, I'll hold you close and never let you go. But until then, mine's not to wonder why, it's just a do or die. Mine's not to wonder why, it's just a do or die. Mine's not to wonder why, it's just a do or die.
All right, welcome back to Full Speed Ahead After Battle. Thank you for that quick little break. We were fixing some technical difficulties, but as in life, things go wrong, and we pivot, we adapt, we overcome, right? So one thing that I always forget, and I get yelled at for on this show, is you can follow us at the top of the screen. You'll see all of that, Roku, Fire, all that, mbradio.us. You can find the website there as well. We are the Military Broadcast Radio Network. We are giving the voice to the veterans. We have all kinds of different shows on here. We got some comedy, we got some wrestling, stogies, all the other different stuff we want to talk about. So it's all about veterans. It's all about giving back to veterans and giving those veterans voices to talk about what they want to talk about, get things off their chest. And sometimes this is exactly what we need when we talk about that support system. It's that outlet. It's that relief that you can get on, share your stories, talk to other people, maybe even talk about just some good, silly things. And that's what gets you through the day. And that's quite all right. But here on this show, we do talk about military transition. We do talk about the suicide rate, the veteran mental health awareness. We are in October, and that is Bullying Prevention Month. And as we just heard from Ms. Tamara, she definitely experienced a lot of that with her time in service. And so we need to, put a stop to that as well as everything else. But again, follow the page, follow me on Instagram, like, subscribe, do all that different stuff. not to make me rich and famous, like I tell you every single week. It's so we can get that message out there to the veterans that are watching this show. Maybe they find another show on MB Radio, and that's okay. Because as we all know the statistics, and I'm going to tell this every week until it stops at zero, is 22 veterans commit suicide every single day. Sometimes less, sometimes more. That means in the chance of this 1 hour show, highly likely one veteran will commit suicide. We're here to give that outlet to people to reach out so that that does not happen, because it's not just about that one veteran. It's about the entire family, right? It's not just us we affect when we do that. It's everybody we affect. So with that, I am going to bring my guest, Tamara Rucker, back on. Tamara, welcome back. Again, thank you for sharing that story. And I just want to point out, I know you stood up and you spoke out, and I commend you on that. I hope anybody that hears the story, or anybody that experiences that in the future, the past, whatever, they stand up and speak out, because that the military is not the place for that. We're supposed to count on each other 100%, no matter what, and we shouldn't have to fear about those that we serve next to, because we have enough that we have to worry about. So thank you for sharing that story. The rest of that poem, I'm going to, Tamara, I hope you put that out. I think it's a great monologue. I think it definitely shows your heroism in stepping up and pushing forward and persevering in that. So as we talk about that transition, that experience, you didn't have a successful transition coming out because you experienced more trauma in your personal life outside of the military. And so let's talk about that a little bit. And I know, heaven forbid, you're not the only one that experienced this, but you finally did come and make that decision to take this into your own hands and go forward with that. So I'm going to ask you that hard question again, Tamara. Do you mind telling us about the abuse that you endured after your service?
Yeah. So actually, while I was still in service, I ended up, while I was going through all of that self-destructive behavior, while I was working in a bar, I met a man, and because I was already self-loathing, I just, I fell for a charming face. Um, I fell for love bombing. I fell for everything. And then once that turned, it didn't take very long for it to turn into verbal abuse and manipulation. But I stayed because I felt like I deserved that. I really didn't know any better. I thought that was normal. I thought everything that was happening was normal. The narcissistic discards and hoovering. It was break up with you, when I just don't feel like dealing with you, and then do something, make a grand gesture or bring you back when I feel like getting my rocks off, I guess. I'm not really sure. But that's what I was. It was a yo-yo. And it was those ups and downs and ups and downs. But I'm like, you know what? I'm feeling something. At least I'm feeling something.
Right.
And also the control that was happening. It was like, all right, well, I don't want you to drink anymore. Okay, well, at least he cares and he doesn't want me to drink. Okay, I don't want you to be friends with those people anymore, or that person anymore. Okay, well, at least he cares. I don't want you to have that job anymore. Okay, I'll quit the job. I don't want you to be in the military anymore. I'm not going to marry you until you leave the military. And it was like, okay. And I ended up doing it because I was like, I will do anything for this man. And by that point in the service, I was feeling like, I think I've served my purpose here. I had deployed to Iraq. I went to Kuwait. I had became a government contractor and deployed, went to Israel for a year and came. By that time, all right, I can understand. I rationalized every request that this man made. And also by that time, I was feeling a certain way about the service anyway. I rationalized it like, yeah, that's a reasonable request for someone to make. So I left. I said, for this ring, for marriage, for my family, will leave the service. And so I did at his request. And then the wedding didn't happen.
Uh-oh.
And so I was left with nothing for years, for a few years after that. There was refusal to set the wedding date. I mean, there were several instances. I can remember I was sleeping and I woke up and the engagement ring was gone. And I felt like garbage. I felt like a terrible person. I felt like I had lost the ring. And mind you, this man is blaming me for losing the ring, watched me in agony for a week and a half. And one day he reached up in a shoebox, and said, here it is. And I was like, where'd you find it? He said, I took it off you when you were sleeping. I wasn't sure if I wanted to be with you. And I still stayed. But I didn't feel like I deserved any better. And it wasn't until I had actually, and I know this is Suicide Prevention Month. After that, I actually tried to take my own life. I did. I went to the city and I found somebody on a corner who was selling something. I bought it and then took a huge bottle of pills and I tried to take my own life. But I don't know how I survived, but after that, I realized there's a reason I'm here. And I also found out that I was pregnant with my first child. And I was extremely surprised that my child wasn't hurt from that. I was actually afraid that he would be harmed from that when I found out about it. But after that, I told my family, I said, drop me off at the VA. And I was still, self-medicating myself. When I found out I was pregnant, I got sobered up. But then, family gathered together there, and I let them know I was pregnant. And it was like, what are you going to do? And I said, drop me off at the VA and leave me there, and I will figure out the rest. And so that's when, there's this thing called Bell Street that they have at the VA here. And I was one of the first pregnant female veterans to go through that program for, it's a whole mental health team, basically. A whole mental health team that helps with recovery, addictions. And I mean, I still talk to them to this day. They're amazing. They're absolutely amazing. I didn't know it existed until then. But they embraced me because I was pregnant. And there was also certain programs that administration was, that current administration was implementing for pregnant female veterans. And so, I was so susceptible to all kinds of stuff. But again, I stayed. I stayed. And I didn't think I deserved any better. And if you want me to go into, how that treatment ended up playing out, I can do that. But, looking at my little ones, it was like, something's got to change here. Something's got to change. I can't keep doing this. Couldn't keep doing it.
Yeah, I don't blame you. And for me, I thank you for still being here. I know that that is definitely a struggle, and you're absolutely right. You made it because there's a reason for you to still be here, and I think you now found that reason in sharing your experiences and the work that you've done and everything else. So I think you're doing an amazing job. So we've been talking about a lot of the traumatic side of your life, right? And I think those stories there go to show how strong of a person you are by picking yourself up and getting through them, and now we're going to talk about the successes in your life. Of course, you've got 2 sons now, right? And I know they're doing great.
Yes.
But you've also you made a businesswoman. You're an author now. So let's talk about what I think is interesting is your recovery business. Why don't you share a little bit about that for us?
All right. So, I was sitting there with 2 kiddos, staying home. I told you I left the military at my, then I guess at my, I guess at that point in time, it was fiance's request. And by the time I had, it was right before we had the second child. That's when we actually got married. And so by the time I had 2, I look at them, I'm like, man, I don't know what I'm doing right now. So, like, what am I doing? It was, constant abuse, constant verbal abuse. It turned physical a couple times. And then he invests in, real estate. He had rental properties. And I knew a lot about unclaimed property, right? And he wanted to try to purchase tax sale properties. And so I started digging into tax sales. But I actually ended up, when you go on the far side of YouTube, when you're looking at one thing, but then you start getting into something else. And I started realizing that surplus was a thing. And I'm like, all right, I know about unclaimed property. I know about surplus. Let me see how I can turn this into a business. And I had already been a military police officer, already been a corrections officer, was already familiar with investigations. I turned it into a business. I said, what I'm going to do? And at the same time, I'm writing books and publishing them in my spare time, staying up in the middle of the night writing. But I started that business and I took on my first claim, and it was really difficult to do because counties do not like when you dip into their funds. Okay.
Oh,
and
yeah.
It's not their funds. It's not their funds. First of all, it's not. I found out exactly what they were doing. And so, all right. So if a person doesn't pay their real estate taxes for 3 years, what the county does, most counties around this country, they sell that home at auction. Now, 9 times out of 10, it's going to result in a surplus. So say if someone owed $5,000 in back taxes, but at the auction it sold for $100,000. Most people don't know that $95,000 difference belongs to the homeowner.
Oh.
So if that doesn't get claimed within a certain amount of time, for some counties in this country, it's 90 days. But in my state, it's 3 years from the date of sale. But that first year where their money's not even eligible to be claimed, for some odd reason, that counts in that 3 years. So it shaves time off. So people actually have even less time to claim their money. And I said, you know what? I'm going to take on the county. I think I want to take on the county. And I think I want to help people. I want to help people do this. This is not fair. This isn't fair. And I can add value to my community. Not only can I add value by helping others and show my kids too that you can help people. You can use your skills. You can use your brain.
Right.
You can do this. You don't have, it doesn't matter if you're a little guy. It really doesn't.
Yeah.
You can still accomplish great things. And in the same time, I'm being told that that's not going to work. It's going to fail. I didn't listen. That was at that point, I stopped listening completely.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm going to make this work. And with unclaimed property, as long as your LLC, as long as you're able to get tax clearance, you can, in our state, you can actually be an air finder for the state treasury. So having those certifications, being able to get my private investigator's license, being able to become an air finder, to break into the county and submit these claims for these homeowners and help them get their money that they deserve, that they didn't have. I said, this is amazing. I'm going to take this. I'm going to take this all the way. And at first, I wanted to just within my county, but then I realized counties are shooting $1 million a year that don't belong to them. So that is how Rockwood Recovery was created, and I could talk about this forever.
No,
It's amazing. I could talk about it forever.
I know you could. I'm sure most people could, especially when they're proud of what they built. But I just want to highlight that, you're one of the veterans that was able to take those skills that you learned in the service and transfer that into something that you could do outside of it. So you had that investigative background and that policing background and knowledge of how things worked, and you use that. So for like people like me, though, I was a sonar operator, and when I left, I went to school to be a juvenile probation officer, and the job that I currently work at, I'm a call center analyst. So none of that has anything to do with it. But some of those veterans get to lean on that experience that they learned in service, translate it into a business. Not only a business though, but you're doing, from what I know of, you're doing very well in this business. And I just want to make sure that so for what you're talking about, this is only in the state of Missouri where you're working at, right? You can't help other people out there. So people are calling into the show, help me out, get that money.
I can. So also registered, Rockwood Recovery is also registered CDR, which is Claimant Designated Representative for the Georgia State Treasury, as well as California. Want to expand a lot further, but we can only, most people don't know there are billions of dollars in unclaimed property for every state. Every state has a state treasury, and every state has an unclaimed property division. And all people have to do really is go search their name, go to their state treasury and search their name. On our website, Rockwood Recovery website, there are, the laws, rules, and regulations for all states, Missouri, Georgia, and California. Search your state treasury website, search your name, search your deceased relatives. You may find money, and it's a fact. 1 in 5 people have unclaimed property, whether it's $10 or whether it's hundreds of thousands. And 1 in 5 people have unclaimed property. So we do actually help other states. We can't really expand that much further without more agents. So I want to make this bigger. And unclaimed property is not the same as tax foreclosure surplus. I want to be very clear about that. One is state level, unclaimed property is state level, and tax foreclosure surplus is county level. So
yeah, I'm glad you explained that, because when I've seen like this type of stuff in the past, I always thought it was a scam of people trying to scam me out of some money. But I think what you're doing is like you said, you're helping out your community now, and I think we know more people like that trying to help out their community and trying to get them that money, because if they're already on foreclosures for a few grand, they're already struggling for money, they're already hurting in life. And what you do is help.
That was a common. That was a common thing I actually ran into when reaching out to folks. They thought it was a scam. And one thing I want to do so bad is bring asset recovery out of the shadows. Like, I don't understand why so many recovery specialists and investigators just kind of hide in the shadows, and they don't advertise. They don't speak at county council meetings. They don't. These tax foreclosure statutes are so vague. They give every county the ability to do whatever they want to do or handle surplus the way they feel like it. So it's very consistent, especially even across my state. It's very inconsistent from county to county. One pays out, one drags their feet. There's no timeline. And so even now, working with state representatives to reform statute to have a fairer, more balanced process for homeowners when they're making it's I can't wait for more people to find out about the surplus issue, the unclaimed property issue, and get some good reform in there for that. And I want to thank the state representatives that have been helping me and guiding me, and the friends that the friends that I'm working with as well have been helping me, guiding me through that. I cannot wait. I cannot wait to see that on the legislative agenda.
Good. Yeah, I think that's definitely going to help out more people. So it's amazing work that you do. Thank you for that. I did also, if you can see it on the screen, people, that is the Facebook page for Ruckwood Recovery. So you can go on there and reach out if you need some assistance from her, or you can go to that website and do it that way. But we are going to take a quick break. And then when we come back, we're going to wrap up with Tamara. She, I think, has found an outlet in writing. I think, a lot of people need to find that outlet. And so we're going to discuss that. And she's got some great books out there. If you can pick them up, we'll find them. We'll talk about it here in just a second.
I'm about as far as I'm going. Welcome home. I'm sure your family and all your friends are going to be glad to see you.
Thank you, sir.
Walking these old dirt road side streets, looking at the sights and reminiscing, wondering what's changed since I've been gone. I'm coming home. It's like yesterday that I left here. Time flies and now it's been years, but I know this is where I belong.
Hey, girl, boss.
I'm coming home. Coming home to the family, friends and the memories, the ones I love and the ones I regret. Coming back to make a new life, built on the one I left behind. Thank God it wasn't over yet. We're not made to live this life alone, so I'm coming home. Fear almost stopped me from returning. Thought others won't forgive the bridges burning, but I'm planning to rebuild what is gone now that I'm home. And I know it won't be the same that it was, but that's okay, 'cause I will always love this place and the ones who call it home. Yeah, that's my home. Coming home to the family, friends and the memories, the ones I love and the ones I regret. Coming back to make a new life, built on the one I left behind. Life alone, so I'm coming home. We're not made to live this life alone, so I'm coming home.
All right, and we are back on Full Speed Ahead After Battle. That was Cynthia Roush with I'm Coming Home. And during the break, Tamara just reminded me also, if you go to missingmoney.com, that'll be for you to look in. You can put in your information and it will let you know if you need to enlist services from people like Tamara to help you find some of that lost money. So before we wrap up for the evening, like we said just before we went off for break, a lot of people need to find that outlet, that thing that, keeps them busy, keeps their hands not idle, as you say, about idle hands. But you are an accomplished author, I'm going to say, because you got 3 books out. So what got you into wanting to write books and the different styles that you've written? What got you into that?
So the first book that I had wrote, what woman doesn't think about that? That's Star for Stripes and Turtle Seduction. It is a erotica. Very graphic. It's not for children, I would say.
Okay.
The second one, the second book I wrote, now mastering the art of guided meditation, and that I wrote that book when I started doing, acupuncture, going to just delving deeper into how to connect with myself more spiritually. And as I, continue to go to church, as I continue to draw nearer to God, meditation is a huge part of that. Like, what is prayer but really deep meditation?
Right.
Prayer in itself is a form of meditation. And so, the Serene Path was just, it was more to help people learn to focus their energy and find that deeper place within themselves that they can find some peace. And when I wrote Breaking the Chain, strategies to deal with a narcissist, I was, stuck in a narcissistic relationship. And I said, I'm gonna study this. I spoke with, I can't tell you how many, I really can't tell you how many psychologists, therapists, counselors I spoke with in order to write that book, because I was receiving services myself. And so they would, refer me to other psychiatrists and psychologists. And I was able to actually write that book. And the crazy part is I ended up having to follow my own advice in the book. And I referred back to my own book. I wanted that book to help people, but I think I more wrote it to help me. It's a guidebook on how to get out of it, how to keep it from destroying you internally. And I ended up needing to refer back to my own book to help myself in healing and dealing with what I was going through at the time.
Yeah. And I think that's a big message, because when I talk to a lot of people, it's when you become okay with opening up about your story and sharing your experiences with people, that's when you can really start to help other people with them. Because, if you go out and tell them what to do and you haven't been there and accepted your own pain and your own issues, then you're almost like, a hypocrite in a sense. But then, to your point, it gives you something to look back on. I know you have those memories and you can think about the stuff all the time and how did you get out of it, but it's not the same as putting it into words, right? Putting it on paper and then sitting there and going back and looking at it. Okay, that happened to me. I got through it though. And I did something about it. And now other people are going to be able to see that and make those same changes, because, you're not the only one that's got your kind of stories out there, unfortunately. And so I think, breaking the chain specifically is going to help a lot of individuals in those type of situations, whether it's in the service or in the home life like you did. So, That's great. And then, the spiritual one as well. Whether it's a spiritual or meditation of some sort, you need to find that calm, right? You got to find that calm and that higher power within yourself. And that's what I think is going to help a lot of people. I know trying to find that inner peace, that inner calmness within me has definitely helped over the last few years. Let me ask you this, Tamara. You wrote 3 completely different books. Is that just, are you like me and your brain just goes at a million miles an hour in all kinds of different directions? And that's like, I want to write this and this. I'm afraid that's what would happen to me if I tried to write a book. It would be one book about a million different things.
I always wanted to write. I grew up listening and reading these romance novels. When I lived at my grandparents' house, they had a whole bookshelf in my room that was nothing but like these 1970s, 1980s romance novels. I had nothing else to read for a long time. I said, I want to write one of these one day. And so I did. It was a little more graphic than those, but so I did. But when I wrote The Serene Path, I was on my own journey at that point in time. Like I was on my own journey to healing, discovering who I am, discovering a way to get in touch with my inner self and learn to value myself. And coupled with breaking the chain, it was coupling both of them together. It was like, all right, I'm on this path to meditation and finding out who I am and learning to love myself. Now I can implement this. Now I can implement this with strength and not feel bad about it.
Yeah.
And not feel bad about it. I can exit the situation because I know who I am. I'm able to step back, think, meditate, get into a deeper mindset instead of focusing on this surface level stuff.
Right.
So it really helped.
That is great. So for everybody listening, you can find her books. I put the link in the comments. They're on Amazon. She's got the Kindle editions, the paperbacks. What's the next book? Do you know yet?
The next book is going to be an autobiography.
Oh, there you go.
It's going to be an autobiography. I am working on that now. Now, granted, my story is not finished. I still got a lot of stuff that I want to accomplish coming up here.
Absolutely.
But I'm writing it as I go along. And I don't know if you can tell, I love to talk. So it's going to be a thick book. Thick.
There you go. Second, third, fourth editions coming out every couple of years.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's great. So, author, business owner, service member, you've done it all. You raised a family, kids. I am happy that you were able to go through your struggles and find your peace and your success, because I think a lot of people, when we talk about those transitions, they struggle. And that is, I would like to say, arguably the number one factor in veteran suicide is that transition, because they lose their mission, they lose their purpose. I know you struggle with it. You found your way out, and I'm so happy that you're still here. You're still kicking. You're still helping people out in so many different ways. So thank you, Tamara, for being here, not just on the show, but in life. That way you can share your story with everybody else. I want to give you a couple quick minutes for any final thoughts, final words, to share with anybody out there listening, something that you want to put out into the world to make people be better about themselves.
I'd say for whether you're a female or male veteran, from my experience with the VA, I have an amazing mental health team. And a lot of folks don't, know about the whole community care thing. If you can't get an appointment in a couple of weeks, utilize community care. You can go to whatever psychiatrist, psychologist, counselor you need to go to. And the VA will cover that. I do believe that is for 50% and above I do believe it's for 50% and above. I
Yep.
wouldn't know what it is for under 50%. If you're 50%
Right.
and above, I know that, that community care option is available, especially through Champ VA too as well.
Mhm.
But lean into it. It's not shameful to get help. No matter, some people might say, I had somebody telling me that I was weak for needing therapy. It was my own husband telling me I was weak for needing therapy or
Mhm.
accepting the PTSD label or you know what I mean? Just don't screw it. Get help. If you need
Yep.
help, please don't be afraid to get it because there are people who care. There are so many people out there who care. It might not feel like it right now. If you're feeling this way right now, it might not feel like things are going to get better, but they can. And there are people out there who are there to listen, who are there to help guide you through it. I know it can feel suffocating
Mhm.
and like maybe no one's on your side, but if you seek it out, you can find somebody to be on your side to help you through that. And don't give up because it does get better. It really does. Um,
Yeah.
and it but it can only get better if you want it to.
Yeah.
So you gotta want it to get
Absolutely.
better.
Right. Absolutely. Tamara, thank you so much for being on the show Full Speed Ahead tonight. I can't tell you how strong of a person you are to still be here with everything you've gone through, becoming a success with your stories and your business and the politics that you're working on with other people. So thank you so much for being here and sharing your story. And I hope we get to talk again soon. Okay.
All righty. Thank you so
All
much for
right.
having me.
Thank you. Have a great night. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is Tamara Rucker, Army veteran, domestic abuse survivor, author, business owner, whatever you want to call her. She's an amazing person, and I want to thank her so much again coming on and sharing her story. She's not the only one out there, people. You heard it from her herself. It's okay to ask for help, and I tell people it's okay for ask for help. I've asked for help. You cannot do this alone. All right. The VA's out there. There's veteran organizations. There's all kinds of people. Just like I said, the last couple of shows, write that list down. And when you start having those thoughts, go through that list. And by the time you get to number 5, you're not going to have those same thoughts. And it's all about finding that inner peace and finding that way forward, that mission forward, or that thing that's going to keep you driving. And things are going to get better. And just like going through boot camp, just like your time in service, we all have those bad days, right? And we all think that you're not going to make it through it. You're not the only one. Everybody right next to you at some point in their life has had that same thought of, I can't do this anymore, or I can't make it anymore. Better off not here. Trust me, you're not better off not here. It's not just you that suffers or doesn't suffer anymore. It's the family and the friends that are still there that have to deal with that. And so there's other people suffering. So again, this is October is Bullying Prevention Month. And outside of that, we heard about some bullying in the service. So I'm going to make this call out right now. Knock it off. I know that's not going to work, but with the latest announcements of the military getting back to the old days, I agree in some ways, but there are a lot of ways that we don't need to be doing that. We need to make it acceptable for our brothers and sisters in arm and uniform to be able to speak up when those things happen, to be able to count on others to speak up when things happen and not have to suffer through it. Because when we're in a time, when we're in the service in a time of war or whatever we're doing, our mission, we need to be focused on that mission and working with the people next to us on that mission, not worrying about what they're going to do to me next, because we have enough of that problem going on in the world today to be worrying about that. So I'm going to leave you as always, full speed ahead after battle. We'll be back next week with another amazing guest. Monday, 7 Central. Again, find us on NB Radio, You can find me on YouTube, on Instagram, on Facebook, on Podbean, Spotify, all those different places. Like it, share it, comment, whatever, subscribe, get the message out. Not for me, but for those out there looking for that sign to keep going forward, because this is your sign. Keep going forward. You're not in this alone. Until next week, guys, have a great week, and I'll see you later.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to Military Broadcast Radio. As we wrap up today's show, we want to remind you that the podcast of today's episode will be available right after we go off the air. So if you missed any part of the show or want to listen again, be sure to check it out. And remember, we're here to support and honor our veterans. Your stories and experiences matter, and we are committed to giving you a platform to share them. That's right. We're here to give our veterans a voice. So don't forget to catch the podcast and stay connected with us. Giving our veterans a voice.